Welcome to the Fusion Power Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Gillespie, CSO and co-founder of Fusion Power. With me today, we have one of the top solar reps in the entire country. I feel very privileged to work with him for the last several years. Mr. Luke Ward, welcome to the studio today.
Yeah, thank you.
Luke last year in 2022 had a record-setting year where he did 367 gross bookings in a single year. Unbelievable amount. 207, what was the net number on that? 260 something?
274.
274 net bookings. 264 installs last year?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Unbelievable. 200, that's over 2 megawatts installed. Got a double Golden Door Award. And then with your team, you guys had 600 team installs with over 5 megawatts installed as a team.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good year.
Pretty impressive year, man.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's freaking cool. Well, if you guys were up at Door to Door Con, Luke was one of the presenters. We were in standing room only in Luke's presentation. He was able to get up there and talk about his 12 rules to success. Tell us about your experience at Door to Door Con, Luke.
Yeah, it was awesome. I love Door to Door Con. It just gives it kind of puts you in a position of knowing and seeing other people in this industry. And so everything's relative, right? If we just stay confined in our little box, that's all we know. But if we go out there and we get on a national stage and we get in front of it, like what the country's doing, it really puts everything into perspective about the numbers that we're putting up versus the numbers that we just do here internally. So lets us see how we're doing against nationwide numbers. And also not just that, but it's really good to be able to kind of fill your cup. So often I think that in the industry we get into a position where we're just always dumping our cup out. And so I love these types of events because I get my cup full. I learned a ton of information out of that event, got a ton of content that I was able to take back with me and then start applying in my daily life and also applying for my team and stuff as well.
Well, and you were able to add value by helping fill other people's cup, right? These guys that are trying so hard to learn how to have success in this industry, and they get to see you as this pinnacle player and be able to give the wisdom and the things that you've learned back to them. What was it, you had some time to prepare for that. And as you were kind of thinking about what it is that I want to share with all these people that are coming to listen to this thing, what were you hoping to give to them? What were you hoping that they would take away?
Yeah, I think, so I shared this in the talk that I did that year, or I shared this in the talk that I just did, but I talked about, this year is about giving back. So last year was a very selfish year, right? Hitting those numbers, you have to be very selfish. You have to be very selfish with your time, have to be very selfish with every aspect, and including my team. I've kind of neglected my team. And so this year is about really giving back and creating and duplicating myself and also sharing this amazing opportunity. So that's what I was hoping to do. I was hoping to the people would come there and leave something with them that would change the trajectory of their sales, right? So if they're mediocre, I want them to be great. If they're less than mediocre, I want them to be great. And if they were already great, I wanted them to be absolutely amazing. And so I tried to condense it as best I could to be able to pack in as much information that I think is important, that helps me be able to sell at a high level, and then hoping to impart that wisdom to them. So one of the greatest things isn't about being acclaimed, but having somebody come up to you and say, man, that was awesome. That was absolutely incredible. It changed the way I'm selling today. I went from 100 sales to 200 sales, or I went from 100 sales to, 250 or whatever that was, a number I hit. And that's what I was hoping to do at that event. Now, in 1 hour, I don't think I could pack in I can't pack in all the information I have that's applicable in a day-to-day sales game, but I tried the best I could to be able to, take the nuggets and stuff that are super important for me to sell and perform at a high level.
You weren't always, the top rep in the entire country. In fact, you weren't always the top anything in your life, right? You've come from a background that you shared with us at Door to Door Con. Give me your background of, where you were when you got into sales. What was it that made you decide that you wanted to start doing sales?
Yeah, that's a great thing. So I got vulnerable, really vulnerable. I usually don't share that with everybody. I'm not very proud of my history, but it creates the person I am today full of gratitude for this amazing opportunity. But when I got into door-to-door sales, I was working a construction job, which I had worked most of my life. Swinging a hammer and doing really dirty work, working 50 hours a week, making maybe like $26,000 a year. And that's where I was at. My buddy was down here selling selling alarms in Mesa, Arizona. He was doing blitz strips, and he was telling me he made $8,000 in 1 week. And I was like, dude, what? dude, it takes me half a year to make $8,000. Are you kidding me? And he told me and shared this opportunity with me. And I had a break in my work schedule where I had 1 week, and there were a slow time. If you know construction, it's always up and down. You're not always consistently working. And I came down here and I tried it. And in that 2 weeks, I made $10,000, and I've never looked back. So part of that, and I know what we're going to talk about is part of that is being grateful for this opportunity. Like making $26,000 a year and then making $8,000 in 2 weeks is unbelievable, right? It's an opportunity. And when you see an opportunity like that, to have the potential to be able to make that type of money, it's life-changing. It literally changes lives. And so it had changed my life. I'd never looked back. I quit my job immediately. I was like, I'm done, not coming back. And I had, I plowed through selling through alarms at that time. And every year after that, I was the number one alarm rep at the company I was working for. So, and a lot of that comes from being grateful for this opportunity. At that time we were making $500 a deal, and I calculated all my finances based on deals. Okay. If I do 20 deals, what does that come down to? That's $10,000. So all of the strategy was always making sure I hit those numbers. And so super eternally grateful for this opportunity. And I think a large part of my success was I was just willing to outwork everybody else. I was on the doors at 9 a.m. I'd be done by 9 p.m., right? We did a blitz trip, and I was always the first one out there and the last one to come home. I'd come home, and all the guys were already out to dinner and doing things, and I was still plugging along.
So let's talk about that, because that's a very unique quality. Most people, it's like, I will put in the bare minimum of what it takes to get some result on the door. What is it about direct sales that you love, part A, and part B? Why do you think that most people can't or won't, are not willing to do it? You
eat what you kill, right? So given the opportunity, show me how to kill, and I'm going to go kill, right? So that I can eat, and I want a huge bounty. And it's really a contrast coming from where I came from to where I'm at today is, I think, the reason, the mindset that I've developed. Like, I've always been a hard worker in any organization I've worked for, but when you give me the ability to kind of write my own paycheck, and you say, listen, if you work hard, the harder you work, the bigger your paychecks, man, I'm all about it, right? So it comes down to just plugging through and knowing I have that ability and the capacity to be able to do that. And I think what separates most people is they think this opportunity, they float around from job to job. They don't know hard work. They never had to struggle. Or even if they did have to struggle, they think that's the way that they have to live. And when you get in the door-to-door sales opportunity, man, you don't have to live like that, right? And so I've always been a hard worker, and I think that's the number one ingredient with me being able to be successful in any endeavor, is just outworking everyone else, And those first early days, I would be out by 9 a.m. I had a roommate that they paired me up with, and that guy was sleeping till like noon. I'd be like creeping around, getting ready, and I'd be on the doors. I'd go get my coffee at 8:30, and then I'd be on the doors by 9. And then when I got home, he was always there, right? And so this is a huge contrast. Now, he was in the door-to-door game. He'd already been in the game for a long time, and I don't know, maybe he had some money stashed away, or he was happy with mediocrity. So I'm not happy with mediocrity. In fact, I just want to live up to my true potential on a daily basis.
It's fantastic. There's one thing. I think work ethic is one thing, but in order to have consistent work ethic, you've got to have grit.
Yeah.
How do you define grit?
Well, grit isn't, anybody can do something hard for 1 month, right? And some people can sometimes, not everybody. Everybody can do something hard for 1 day, maybe 1 week, maybe 1 month, maybe 6 months, maybe 1 year. Grit is really the continuous effort of plowing through challenge after challenge on a consistent basis and wrapping in years, not just weeks and months, but literally years. And so grit to me is just having that tenacious or the tenacity to be able to do that day in and day out and be committed to that and continuously doing it, right? Grit isn't doing something hard for 1 month. And we get people like that all the time. What New Year's just happened, right? So everybody had New Year's resolutions, and I guarantee 98% of people have already quit doing their New Year's resolutions. You know why? Because it got hard. And so gritty is really about doing the boring, the mundane, the hard on a continual basis, right? And so that's the challenging part, is continuously doing that. I struggle in all sorts of areas of my life. I'm not gritty in every area of my life, but I try to maintain that grit, and I'm conscious of it. And so, it's about maintaining that same level of commitment on a daily basis, no matter whether you want to or not.
Do you think that grit is something that people can develop, or do you think it's something that you're either born with or not born with?
No, I think everything's able. I think that you can develop anything. But, if you're someone that's lazy or someone that's not committed, or you don't have a big enough why, or if you don't have a blueprint or a strategy, it's very hard to maintain that grit. You've got to have faith and hope, but backed up with a grit, right? Because in the door-to-door game especially, we don't always get the results. We can knock a week and not get anything, right? And we put in all this time. We say, I just worked for free for an entire week. This was stupid. And a lot of times guys will give up. But what they don't realize is, like, you put in all that time and the effort, and then the next week, maybe you get, 5 to 10 deals, right? It's the effort. It's the continuous effort that's going to breed the results. And it's the analogy with the guy hitting a stone, right? And he's pounding a stone and he hits it 10,000 times. And finally, that last time, the 10,001 time, or 10,000 the first time, he's able to crack the stone. Well, was it that one time, or was it the 10,000 times that he was hitting the stone? Literally, that's what it comes down to. And so the effort, I firmly believe in the effort that we put forth is what we're going to see as our results. And so we don't always see that. We don't always get the instant gratification, especially in the solar industry. We set the appointment, we go back to the appointment, we hope we sell the appointment, we hope the appointment, makes it through the site survey and the application and the permitting time, and then we hope it gets installed. We don't always see that. We don't see the end result for sometimes 2 or 3 months. And so you're out there plowing through, but you're doing it out of hope and faith. But I firmly believe that the activity that we're doing on a daily basis will breed the results. And as long as you're out there working hard and you're applying and you're doing what's needed or what's necessary, I think eventually it's that 10,001st time that you're able to break that rock.
And I love that too. You think about all the times where, it's the end of a hot day, you had appointments cancel on you, maybe even had a cancel of a sold job, and it's just like, dude, it's 115 degrees outside, and you're like, I'm done with this, I want to leave. And you get back to your car and you look across the street and you see that house that you've been by 40 times over the last 3 months, and he's never been home. And now you finally see that, there's a car in the driveway and it's a Toyota Prius. It's a 2-story house. And I know he has a pool in the backyard because I've looked at Google Maps. This is my primary candidate, right? Nobody drives a Prius because they're cool looking. You only drive a Prius because you want to save money. And so it's like, this is the guy that's going to buy. But if I quit and I don't go knock that one more door, that might be the one sale in the week that I would have gotten. However, if I had not been knocking all week and that was the only one I knocked, I'm not going to get him. So it's that pounding, like you said, the 10,000 times before that gives me the skill and the motivation, the confidence necessary so that when I do have this one shot to get the guy, I'm going to end up getting him.
I think that's a great analogy. But the other thing with that, though, too, is it's about hitting that stone on a continuous basis, right? If you hit that stone 1,000 times and you give up, the stone's still the same as it was before. Yep. It's about continuously doing that until continuously doing that activity until you break on through. And so often we see this. How many guys do we go through? 1 out of 10 guys actually make it in this industry.
Totally.
And they make it in this industry because there's a learning curve to get over, right? There's a hump to get over. And a lot of times they'll start hitting that stone and they'll only make it 1,500 hits. Some guys will make it 100 hits, right? Sometimes guys will make it 9,999 hits and they give up, and they don't realize if they just continue to plow through this thing and continue to have hope and faith and believe that if somebody else did this, they can do it too. Right? They look around, they discount themselves on why they can't do it. Well, I can't do this, or I'm unwilling to do this. And what they don't realize is if they continue to just hit that stone, eventually it's going to break. And I think that most people give up before the stone's broken. Right? Once the stone's broken, you can do this. You have faith and hope because you've done it before, and you'll feed back that loop. That loop will continue to feed back to you. Like that if you continue to hit that stone, that it's eventually going to break. And now you have the faith and hope to feed into that story. Now, if you don't have that story, I think it's really important that you find somebody that has that story. Right? This is why I always this is why we read books. We read people about, we read 400 pages and it's got a guy's entire life compounded in a book. And we got to take those stories and we got to apply them in our life and know that if it happened for them, it can happen for us too. Right? And so I think it's very important. And this is why, like very early on in the solar game, man, it was hot and miserable and I failed repeatedly failing. And I just knew that if somebody else could do this, I could do it too. And it was really about looking around and seeing the other guys at Fusion and seeing other guys that were popping in deals left and right and knowing that, hey, if they can do it, I can do it.
You can do it too.
I just got to get past this learning curve. I got to continue to knock when it's 115, 117 degrees. I got to leave at 2. I got to get on the doors at 2, and I can't leave until 8 o'clock. And continuously doing that and pounding that stone until finally it ended up breaking. And after it breaks, then you know that it's possible, and then you have your experience, which will feed back into your loop that you have in there. Now, the problem is that most people will stop hitting the stone, and then what's feeding back into them? Quitting, right? And I was just sharing about this the other day. So I went to the Sam Taggart. It was the Sales Summit last year, and it was in South Carolina, and he had us come out there and he had us do a bunch of exercises. Okay, we were doing this ropes course, and it was hard. It was not an easy ropes course, man. It was really high. You were walking on these little like tightrope stuff, and I was with a team because I showed up late. I was on a team. These guys were a bunch of quitters. They were talking a good game when we were down on the ground, and then when we got up there, they're like, "Oh, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it." I was like, "What?" Dude, and I was like trying to encourage these guys. I was like, "You got to do it, man. I mean, this is what else are you going to do? You're going to go climb down?" And they all climb down. And I said, "You know what? This is probably how you show up in every aspect of your life. And you know what? The experience of you quitting right now, that's going to continue to feed back to you over and over and over again. And you're going to quit when stuff gets hard." And you know what? I latched onto another team. And guess what? This team did the ropes course twice. And so we did it twice. We did it 2 times. I love the people that are just willing to be, gritty and push on through when it gets hard. And those are the people I want to surround myself with. Those are the people I want to read about. These are the people that will really feed back into my experience loop that help me be a better person. I don't want to hang out with the losers. Like I was upset and I was pissed, and I probably pissed some people off because I was talking a bunch of crap, But the idea of quitting when it gets hard, most people quit when it gets hard. Here in Arizona, it gets hard. Here come May, June, July, August. It is brutally hard, right? We're out there knocking at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's 120 degrees. There's no wind. We're sweaty. We have frozen bottles of water in our pocket that are melting after we knock the entire block. This is kind of what happens. But the reward after doing that isn't just the monetary value. It's the fact that when we go and knock doors, we have that experience that will feed back into our loop, right? We know that we can do hard stuff. We've proven to ourselves that we can do hard stuff. The great thing about door-to-door stuff is that you don't have to be brilliant. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be anything. All you have to be willing to do is work hard.
Yep.
I firmly believe that. I firmly believe that we can put anybody into this business model that we have, and we can show them how to do it, and we can teach them how to do it, and then we can show them that all you have to do is show up, and they can be rewarded. And it's just not the monetary value. This is why I have the grit, is because I have the experience that no matter what, I continue to do the stuff that's hard. I continue to challenge myself. And as a result of that, when I look at things or challenges in my life, I'm no longer, like, oh, I can't do that. I'm like, if they did it, I can do it too. And I have the experience to back up that it's possible for me to do it as well.
Let me ask you this, because there's people will quit, right? And they were not great enough, or they didn't have the mental toughness. When you ask why they quit, they're going to come up with some kind of an excuse. Why do people make excuses?
It's the ego making the excuses. Like everybody has excuses, and really what it's about personal accountability and responsibility. Like, people always want to make some sort of an excuse, because they can't bear the fact that, they gave up, they quit. And so saying, "Hey, I quit. I didn't do it." That's unbearable, right? People don't want to say that. It's a lot of a shame and guilt and all the other stuff that's encompasses it.
And that's huge, is when you feel the shame, what are you more likely to do next time you approach a hard situation?
Quit, not even try.
Quit again, right?
You're not even going to try. So the thing too is when you start giving up on things, and this goes back to like what we talked about for people making resolutions. As we get older, we failed on a lot of these resolutions, and we quit making them altogether because our experience says we're just going to quit or we're not going to do it. And then people are joking about it. Hey, people are making resolutions and stuff. But it's really important to continue to make those goals and those resolutions, and then to do it, and then to be able to say, "Hey, I'm not going to do this for like the monetary value. Yes, that's a reward. That's a consequence of me working hard. But I'm going to do it because I want to be able to develop the mindset that has the experience that I don't quit." And that I continue to plug through even when it's hard, even when I don't want to, even when something else is better, even when I have to make sacrifices. That when you continuously do that, then you're backed up with a bunch of experience in your life that's going to continue to feed you forward. right? And so I think that so often people give up and they quit, and then they start making excuses for their failure, right?
Because it stings, right? When you fail, it hurts. You don't want to face that again, and so you just make the excuse before it even comes up again.
Yeah.
You know, last week we were in. We did our top 10 trip to Jamaica when we were sitting in the hot tub, right? We were talking about why are people inhibited? Why are people afraid to do things? And it's like we don't want to face the fear. And one of the things that I love that you said when we were sitting there talking, you said most people they're either motivated by fear or they're motivated by love, right? And you can define love however you want there, but it's you need to be motivated by something that's going to push you forward. Because if you're motivated by fear, yes, that can get you to go to action, or it can freeze you and make you stop. And I think when people fail, they don't want to face that pain again, whether it's the shame they feel, whether it's the sting or the ridicule or who knows what it is. But that's what's going to cause them to end up making those excuses because they're not willing to face whatever fear is in front of them. And so I think a lot of this mental toughness and grit that we're talking about, there's a component to overcome that. I think number one is to be vulnerable and be able to say, yeah, I didn't make it. I'm not perfect, but that's okay. And I'm willing to continue to push and push and push and fail as many times as it requires, but to fail forward, to fall forward.
I think that's great. I think that too is when I think there's a reason and a season for all emotions, right? And it's fear or love, the main motivating factors. Most people operate in a fear mentality, right? They're scared, but you can also leverage and use that fear, right? You can leverage and use that fear and say, okay, I'm terrified of coming to the sales meeting and saying I got one sale. And because I'm terrified of that, I don't want that to happen. And so I'm willing to take whatever actions necessary to be able to make sure that I'm not coming there and saying I got a goose egg or I got one sale. And I've leveraged and used that as well for motivation, for commitment. You know, I don't want to come in there and be shamed about, you know, what I've done. And then the love part is loving yourself enough to continuously, put forth one foot in front of the other and continue to plug through when it's hard, when you get rejected, when that customer comes out and yells at you, when the guy chases you down the street and is calling the cops, when the guy throws you out of their house. I mean, all of those things have happened to me numerous times.
Yeah.
And they still continue. I still get thrown out of houses. I mean, I just got thrown out of a house like 3 weeks ago. So, it's about the grit is really not letting that stuff phase you, but having something else that you're committed to. The other thing, when people give up on this opportunity, I really think they're giving up on an opportunity to have a massive amount of financial freedom. I mean, if you look at my life, I have a massive amount of financial freedom as a result of just putting one foot in front of the other. I'm not the smartest guy. I'm probably not the best salesman on the planet. I've developed experience, and I think that gives me the leverage to be a good salesman. But I don't know if I'm the best. I'm probably not the best, but I'm going to outwork anybody there is. But if you give up on this opportunity, you're going to continue to give up on stuff time and time and time again. And what do we see? Most of the guys that we recruit that don't work out, are people that came in here. They're from Indeed. They were already looking for a job. They're going to continue to do that for the rest of their life.
Yep.
They're going to continue
Same
to be in
pattern.
this transitional phase where they're always looking for a job because they refuse to commit to doing something that's hard. And we see this all the time. And so, you asked me, do I think this is developed? Do I think this can be developed, or do I think that we're born with it? I think that most people are born with some sort of laziness. Our brains are always looking for ways to do things easier and softer. We're always looking for the greener grass. We're always trying to find the easy way out. But the fact is that the easy way out is the hard way. And eventually it's always going to be the hard way. I mean, initially it's going to be easier to cop out.
Yeah.
Initially it's going to be easier to find those things, but it's like muscle training, right? If you go into the gym and you just do the light weight and you consistently do, you're never going to get bigger. You're never going to push more weight. You're going to continuously, you might max that out, and you might feel really good about lifting that 20-pound dumbbells, but you don't ever get bigger, right? Now, how you build muscle is you tear the muscle. You literally tear the muscle. And it's through repetition of tearing that muscle, of doing that hard stuff, that's going to build the muscle and build you strength and build you endurance. And so often people will go to the 20-pound dumbbells and they're looking for the 5-pound dumbbells because it's too hard for them, and they never get stronger. They never build character. They never build grit. And so often we see that showing up in the world. I really believe that 85% of the population is like that. I'm like that. I've got to train myself to to find those 50-pound dumbbells, to find the 100-pound dumbbells, because you know what? It's about tearing that muscle and rebuilding it again that really creates the character of who we are today.
And I believe that's what we were meant to be, right? We were meant to go through hard things. That's how we develop. That's how we grow. That's how we were created. And if you're not willing to rip those muscles like you're talking about, if you're not willing to trudge through and do hard things, the hard way is the easy way. I love that. I love that. The hard way is the way. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do it, then there's no development. And you go on this mediocre life where you find yourself 5 years down the road saying, man, only if, what if? What if I had done what so-and-so did? What if I had just tried this? Or what if I had just tried that? And then we get in, people will get into the cynical kind of a world, and we meet them all the time where they just want to blame circumstances, right? It goes back to kind of excuses, but people want to start blaming others or circumstance for the reason that they're not where they want to be, but they're not willing to take that responsibility and be 100% responsible for their own circumstances, their own situation in life.
One other thing with the personal responsibility, when we have ultimate personal responsibility for our life, we take control of our lives. If we're a victim, or if there's circumstances, or if we're blaming people, we give all of our control and our ability to do something about our situation to somebody else. And I don't agree with that. I think that will keep us a forever victim. It also puts us in a different mindset where life's happening to us and not for us. And so it's about really taking personal responsibility for everything in our lives, which gives us the ultimate power and control. Because if we were to blame, we're also the solution. And so when we start looking to ourselves for the solution and know that, hey, I didn't get any deals this week because I didn't work hard enough, then what's the solution there? It's not to find another job. It's to work harder. It's to learn something that we don't know. It's to plow through some training. It's to be able to, find somebody else that's having a high level of success, pick their brain, figure out what they're doing to get better, right? And it's always about leveling up and looking at people that are performing at a high level, finding those people, attaching those people, learning from those people, and then application of the principles that we learn from those things or those people. And so literally that's what it's about. And that's tearing the muscle. It's uncomfortable. Going up to somebody that's performing at a high level, it might be intimidating for a lot of people. I think it is. It's intimidating for me to go up to Michael O'Donnell and say, hey, dude, I appreciate you so much, man. Hey, can I take you out to dinner? Can I take you out to lunch? I really appreciate you changed my life. I mean, anybody like that or anybody performing at a high level, it's going to be uncomfortable. But once again, it goes back to tearing the muscle. When we're uncomfortable, right, that's making us grow. We're putting ourselves in situations where we're not necessarily comfortable with, and that's going to be tearing muscle so that we can start building that muscle. And I firmly believe that. So I try and find myself into situations that I put myself into uncomfortable situations, cringeworthy situations. Being at a kitchen table, that's cringeworthy. I just got out of that guy's house. He had 20 cats. That was cringeworthy, man. The guy was like, you know what I'm saying? So that kind of stuff right there, putting ourselves in situations. And that's the other thing that makes Door to Door so special is like we get to meet all sorts of different people and really put ourselves into situations where we're uncomfortable, where we're kind of cringy, where we're asking for the close. They're not ready to commit and we're asking them and we're pressing forward and we're assuming the sell. These are all situations that really stimulate us to grow. Even though I've done it thousands of times, I still continuously feel uncomfortable when I do it, right? It's not always that level of comfortability. Once I get to that level of comfortability, I know I'm stagnant, right? I've got to always be in a position where I'm growing or I'm expanding by putting myself in situations where I'm uncomfortable, where I don't feel good. These situations are going to let me grow and build bigger muscle and stuff in the long term. So I try to put myself in the situations like that as well.
100%. Whether you're in door to door or whether you're doing anything else in life, that idea of being 100% responsible for your successes and being 100% responsible for your failures, it's extremely empowering to not have where you can isolate. Everything comes down to me, my mentality, my work ethic, and my grit. I am 100% responsible for my success. I am 100% responsible for my failures. That kind of mentality is what's going to make winners out there. Any winner out there has that kind of mentality. Appreciate you guys being here today. Thank you for listening. Luke, thank you for all of your wisdom and thoughts on this fantastic content. We will catch you guys next time on the Fusion Power Podcast.